good evening, or good afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. Desert Gold, just high level. We're a West African gold exploration company. We're in western part of Mali, right near the border of Senegal. Bit of a look at some of the lay of the land. Next image here is just the table of contents for the presentation. This same presentation is setting up on our website. And so you can go through this at your leisure. And there is a lot more detail. And as per Julian's request, I won't burden you with too much geology unless I'm asked specifically. Disclosures and disclaimers, regular purpose. And again, I'm the Q qualified person for Desert Gold. What are we doing? We're looking for a tier 1 gold deposit in West Africa. These are things that can produce, 200,000 ounces or more a year for 10 years plus. The projects to the north and south of us have produced close to 500,000 ounces a year and even more, depending on the year. It's a large land package. It's about 440 square kilometers, and it's oriented along the Senegal-Mali shear zone. Why this is important is there's 6 gold mines oriented or controlled by this particular feature. And these gold mines are related to 35 million ounces of production, resources, and reserves. And as far as I can tell, all of these deposits are still open. So they'll give it 10 years and they'll be, instead of 35 million ounces, it'll be 50 million ounces. And that's one of the things about these West African or Birimium type deposits, that when you get onto something that is economic, it just seems to go for a long, long time. As I mentioned, we're bracketed by tier 1 mines, both to the north and south of us. And I'll show you where that is on the map soon, with, again, local production up to 600,000 ounces a year. I've been active in this part of the world as a geologist since 2008, and I've gone through a couple of M&A transactions in the process, and now working with Savory Gold. And it's really because I like the geology that the property is sitting on. Right now, from a resource of about a year ago, we have a little over 1 million ounces total of measured, indicated, and inferred, with the bulk of it in inferred, let's say 70%. All of the zones are open. There's a high likelihood of increasing those resources, and all of them are pretty shallow, all open pittable. None of this is underground. And so, why do I think that this is only really the beginning? Well, it's really a target-rich environment. We discovered a new deposit a little over a year ago called Gurbassi West North. It was about 500 meters north of a known deposit with resources. The core of the deposit, we get over 100 meters of mineralization, true thickness. And so it's quite something to see. We're still going to work on that one. We haven't fleshed it out enough to depth along strike, and this is not part of our current mineral resource. And we've traced it for about 1.2, 1.3 kilometers. Nearby, we have Gurbassi East. We have 3.6 grams over 42 meters. And again, to qualify, these are all drill width. So true width is about 75% or 65%. Barani East, very specific cross structure, 6 grams over 13. So we haven't followed it up yet. 2 grams over 30 meters. One of the questions I would ask is, who wouldn't follow that up? So these are things that got to be done. Manankoto, 1.8 over 30 meters. Again, follow-up needed. Lingakoto West and Mugiafara South, which is our largest gold zone, at a little over 400,000 ounces. And again, quite open. We're hoping to do 30,000 meters of drilling this year. It's been proposed with a possible resource update in Q4 of this year, but this is pending funding. So we have some money, but we don't have enough to carry out such a robust program. A bit of an idea of a corporate structure, issued and outstanding, 195 million shares, fully diluted, about 280. All of the warrants are out of the money. Hopefully that'll change as we get results from this year's program. And the market has to be friendly as well. Major shareholders in this list, that's a little over 40% of our shareholding. This group tends to hold on things for quite a while. And so good, stable. And so the float is really the other, call it 100 million shares that are out in the market. And that's the part where it's traded on generally a daily basis. Board and management, Sonny Janda, his family's involved in real estate in Western Canada. Fairly big family in terms of what they can do. It's, let's say, a $500 million family. Jared Scarf's been involved in the company now for 10 plus years. He's brought this stuff from initial projects in Nevada to Western Africa, where he thought there was more potential. Chris Marsh, also as a director. He's a blockchain kind of guy. He just finished selling one of his companies, deciding what to do next. John Learn, who's our exploration manager, has been in West Africa for 30 years, and he lives in Burkina Faso. And so for him to get to site is pretty easy. And I gave you a bit of a bio on myself. Mali is the fourth largest gold producing country. Average annual gold production is close to 2.2 million ounces. In 2017, there was 26 million ounces of reserves, and I think that number is probably bigger now. There's been recent new discoveries, Roscan, Oklo, B2's Mamba deposit, adding on to the exploration potential. And even with all the work that's been done to date, we can still find million ounce type deposits on surface because the work just hasn't been done. Major gold producers and developers, Barrick's 50 kilometers south of us. Allied Gold is 50 kilometers north. B2 Gold is about another 50 kilometers south of Barrick. Endeavour is to the south and west of us, really only in Senegal for an operating mine. And Hummingbird further south in the belt in Mali, Resolute, and BCM are at the Tabakoto mine, which is where I started in Western Africa in 2008. We put that production or that deposit into production in 2009. And here we are in 2023, and it's still producing. And BCM is a private company, so I don't really know how well they're doing, but I know they're still operating. This is a slide that's really, for me, why we're here. So this is a topographic image of the portion of Western Mali. The river that runs through here, the blue line, really demarcates between Mali to the right and Senegal to the left. The Senegal-Mali shear zone, for the most part, is in Mali, but it dips into Senegal in a few places. Noted at Boto here to the south, which is Managem now. And there's a gap here between Gunkoto and Lulo, where the deposit, where the structure goes into Senegal as well. This feature is related to 35 million ounces again of measured, indicated, inferred, and produced ounces. And as I said, it'll probably get a much larger in the future. The next big feature is the main transcurrent. It's related to Massawa, which is Endeavour, Sabodala, Gora. So this group is close to about 10 million ounces. Mako here to the south is about 1.5 million ounces. Generally smaller deposits, but still good deposits associated with another structure that cuts through the western part of our property, and we have about 11, 12 kilometers of that. And for the Senegal-Mali shear zone, we have about 43 kilometers. So these are big regional scale structures that mark the boundaries between continental masses that have been squished together in the past. We see in the property the interaction between these two structures, and so that goes into the prospectivity of what we're seeing. Kind of some, give you an idea of valuations. This is something that Jared, our president and CEO, has set up. Really, the average takeover price per market ounce, or measured and indicated inferred ounce, is around $91. We're trading at sub 10. So it kind of gives you an idea of a valuation offset. The biggest transaction was Papillon, which is now B2 Gold. Papillon's deposit was, let's say, 2.5 million ounces going on to 3 when B2 bought it for about $700 million. And now it is closer to 10 million ounces. So again, the opportunity in the belt, B2 paid not only for what they saw, but what they thought was possible. Pundits in the camp and in the world thought they maybe paid too much, but now when they're producing close to 700,000 ounces a year, and it is really one of their flagship projects, yeah, people don't doubt the value anymore. So this is the kind of thing we're looking for. We're looking for something that's better than average, that big companies will really want, and we'll go from there. Next image is a close-up now with a property scale. So if I go back you can see the property outline here in the middle, where the SMSZ project outline is. So this is the same outline that's here. So what you're looking at is a magnetic date in the background. The dots are gold in soil and gold in auger. Purple dots are more than 200 parts per billion, or 0.2 grams. The yellow dots are 50 to 200. What you can see is an abundance of gold anomalies, especially to the right of the Senegal Mali shear zone, which is the black dashed line. The reason for the magnetics is that I use it to put in this black dash line between higher magnetic rocks, or rocks that are more magnetic to the west, and less magnetic rocks to the east or to the right. The higher magnetic rocks are related to volcanics. They're related to alteration, intrusions. So it's a different geological province, different geology. And so really along this line, you're looking at two continental masses that have been squished together. The main transcurrent, which is this gray line here to the west, or to the left edge of the image, that is more of a shear zone within a continental mass. And so it's a different character feature, whereas this is probably a continental suture. This is a shear zone at a continental scale, so quite different. The deposits that we have in our 1.08 million ounce resource are these gold colored stars, 3 in the south, and then a group of stars, 4 here in the north and northeast central. If we pick a point for scale, somewhere, let's say in where my arrow is here now, a 12-kilometer circle will collect all of these mineralized zones. Our new deposit, called Gurbassi West North, is here on the western edge of the property. It was discovered because we did an auger survey, and in the auger survey we were getting up to almost 2 grams gold in auger. And so what it is, it just represents a vertical drill hole. It's augered through a laterite cover or overburden cover. We take a sample at the transition, or 2 samples at the transition between the cover and the weathered rocks below, 1 above and 1 below. And it's essentially a soil sample that can be, say that you got it in situ. It hasn't moved. It's exactly where it is. The value of this is not every gold sample that you see scattered through the property is exactly related to gold underneath it. And we have to differentiate between stuff that's, maybe moved by a stream or by a truck or something versus something primary. So the auger stuff is more primary. This is the Gurbassi West North is the largest gold system we have on the property to date in terms of its character, but again, it doesn't have an ounce of resource yet that's been calculated. The largest deposit is Mugyapara South, very proximal to the Senegal Mali Shear Zone. And again, we think that this has a chance to be, a multi-million ounce camp or deposit group, and we need to do more work with it. The white and the black boxes are drill intercepts with grade over width. And again, it's drilled width versus true width, with true width being about 65% sort of on average. And you can see we have gold zones that are scattered all the way through the property. And some that I'll point out, SOA here to the center right, 2 grams over 30 meters. We haven't followed up that intercept. Kamana here to the center north, 1.8 grams over 17 meters. That's 900 meters from the next nearest drill hole. We haven't followed it up. And I'm pretty sure you can ask anyone whether they'd follow up those holes, and the answer would probably be yes. Manankota to the north, we're following up in this 1.84 grams over 30 meters, near surface mineralization that we think is flat plunging. I'm 100% convinced I can find more of that. And again, it's requiring follow-up. And this is in addition to the zones that we have. If we were to prioritize, and that's often a question, I'd go to Mugyapara South first because it is one of the larger systems. It has the biggest resource that we have. And literally today we're completing an auger survey over untested structural and golden soil or termite targets that are in the vicinity. This is just a bit more information on the measured, indicated, inferred by the zone names. And this is more for reference. This shows where the 1.08 million ounces of resource is within our property package. And in the short term, the highest likelihood of adding to it is working on those particular deposits. But again, focus first on Mugyapara South. So our 2023 program, we've already laid out close to 30,000 meters of drilling. These are the yellow and the orange circles. Auger drilling is the purple. There's about 10,000 meters of auger drilling. You can see the lines. And right now we're focusing on the lower right-hand corner of this image near the Mugyapara South zone, because we believe that we can make it, there's a high probability that we can make another sort of Grabasi West-North discovery based on a combination of geological structure, regional anomalies in terms of the structure as well, and the gold and soil anomalies that we've seen from termites and from soil samples. So sort of just summary and highlights, and then I'll leave time for a lot of time for some questions if there are any. It's a large land package. We have 43 kilometers of a structure that's about 250 kilometers long, and that structure is related to 35 million plus ounces of gold. So, it's a place where you want to be if you think about potential. We have 11 kilometers of the main transcurrent. And again, that's about a 10 million ounce structure, not quite as productive as a Senegal Mali Shear Zone. But if you find something there, you definitely wouldn't turn it down. Regionally, these structures are related to 11 gold deposits with mining at 9 of them. And so that's a pretty major point that when you find something major within this camp, it's probably going to be mined. Our target model is working. We're finding similar geology to known mines like Sadiola, which is more than 10 million ounces. The Sabodala group, again, 10 million ounces. Our resource, as stated before, a little over 1 million ounces. We got more than 24 gold zones with some very high priority follow-up targets that I would think anyone would drill, test. There's a fair amount of upside. It'll be a long time before we go through the entire list of the gold anomalies that are on the property, but we've chosen more now to focus on what we have and focus on those areas where we think the potential for the larger and bigger systems are there. Gold zones, drill intercepts, as I indicated, these absolutely need to be followed up. And yeah, the program as proposed is about $4 million US. and we're doing auger as well, again, to flesh these things out. And in an ideal world, we'll have a resource at the end of this year. Anyways, that's it for me. I'll stop the share right now, and if somebody wants to ask a question, please go ahead.
All right, Don, thank you for the presentation. Very nice indeed, good development. We signed the news financing that came in early this year. Can you tell us a bit the purpose of that financing and where the money is going to go?
Well, right now the money's going to the Mugiafara South area, which is in the lower southeast corner, and there's an auger survey in process there now. We're going to wait till we get the auger results before we do any drilling, so that we can really be selective. In an ideal world, looking at the structures there, this is still the 5 to 10 million ounce target territory. And if the auger shows something that is, close to Mugiafara South, that is very, very strong, definitely we want to test it sooner rather than later. So if I gave the go-ahead for the drilling program here now, within about, at least for the Mugiafara South area, in about, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, we'd be done. We wouldn't even have the results back from the auger yet. So we're just going to wait a bit first before we proceed.
Okay, perfect. I also wanted to ask you, so there is basically the shear zone, the transcontinental, both of them are kind of parallel. I told you at the beginning to obviously not go too much in the geologic details, but maybe if you could explain a little more exactly how do those traces, how this traces of gold is coming up, how do you think the fluids were going, and describe a little more the system, as we usually are always a bit tight with time with Jared, and now we have you and we have a little more time on our hand.
Okay, fair enough. Just get to the slide that I was, no, sorry, I got to go back here to this one. So this is a good slide to kind of answer that question. There's a few little nuances on this slide which I didn't point out during the talk. So let's start at the north here at Sadiola. You see this feature that's trending to the north and east. Sadiola is controlled by a northeast trending feature. You look at Lulo, again, there's a northeast trending feature. And when I worked here for a previous company, we did an airborne survey, and we can see this northeast trending feature very, very clearly on the geophysics. Gunkoto as well, northeast trending feature, and Fekola. So coming back to it, Mugiafara South is where I'm circling here now, in the southwest or southeast corner of our property package. So I'll just go to this image. You can see these features here that are trending northeast. Yep. These features run right through the Mugiafara South area. When the Senegal-Mali shear zone bends and warps, everything else around it has to accommodate it. So you can imagine the rocks being subjected to incredible forces, and it causes the rocks to break up, it causes rocks to get squeezed together, and it also creates openings. It's these openings that allow hydrothermal fluids with the gold to come into the rocks. You get a lot of alteration that's related to it, and you see the opportunity geologically. You can predict it from the magnetic map. I'm relatively convinced that I can use the magnetics to predict where I should expect gold zones through this entire area. We're one of the few companies that actually has magnetics for both Senegal and Mali. It took me over a year to get it, and I use that magnetic data quite a bit to come up with sort of these larger statements. And to follow that a bit more, Lingakoto West, which is here in the center south of the project, and Barani East, which is center right, they're connected by the same northeast trending feature that spills off and goes through Soa South, Kolan, and Soa, and then off the property to the north and east. one of the big things about the Senegal Mali shear zone is you want to be fairly close to it. So you can imagine this big structure is an aquifer, and then these cross structures are spillway structures or spillway features that allow these hydrothermal fluids caused by this continental suture to be bled off into the surrounding rocks. Then we're looking for individual geological situations, rock type changes, rules in the structure, and the bigger or more obvious the feature, the more likely you've got something fairly big. From a simple point of view, from Barani East to Soa, this is one mineralized group, and we haven't found the limits of it by any chance. At Lingakota West, so Barani East is about a 200,000 ounce deposit, a little over. Lingakota West is 75,000. Mugyafar South is 410,000. I think if I'm again to bet, I might find something bigger in this vicinity here to Mugyafar South than I will at Soa or Barani East. But, you know, is there still a 1 million ounce target label on these? Absolutely. Just this one to the south just seems to be a bigger feature. So I don't know if that helps, but that's sort of, you know, the way we think of these things.
Well, it helps a lot, and also with the map that you're showing, actually, it helps the visualization a lot. I mean, we can see those trends now. We can really see even the grab sample following it, or so on, and it becomes a lot clearer. So, Don, I thank you very much for that. One last question we had, which is, give me a second. So, I'm not sure I understand the question well, but so you will start drilling in March 2023 and get the result in summer 2023. Is that correct?
Well, we're drilling right now, the auger drilling here in the southeast corner of the program. We have probably 20 or 30 holes completed, and it's about 2,500 meters as an initial step. Those results will probably follow in about a month start coming in about a month from midpoint. So let's say near the end of this month, first batch will go in. Maybe by mid-March, end of March, we'll have some of the first assays, and probably all of the assays by early April. Following the same methodology, when those assays are in hand, or when we've answered some questions across some of these larger features, then we will probably start planning drill holes, and that would be taking place, you know, April-ish, assuming that there's no problems.
All right, good. Don, thank you very much. That's all the time we had. We will now have to switch to the next presentation. Thanks again for being part of the IIF, and we will watch closely the result of those drilling campaigns and the decision you made in you will make in the drilling targets. So thank you very much,
Thanks, Julian.